first of all, for coming here and watching our presentations. Hello? Okay. So, first of all, I just wanted to thank you guys for coming down and watching our presentations. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to everyone that's been putting their work in this entire year. So, thank you guys, and I'll just start with introducing my project. I'm in the computer science capstone class, and I did a project called InterArt. And also, by the way, my name is Falish. So, first off, a little bit about me. So, I'm currently a senior at Grandview High School, and I'm going to be going to college next year to pursue a computer science degree. Don't know exactly what college it'll be at yet, but hopefully a good one, we'll see. And so I also love to be involved in my community. I'm in Technology Student Association, Robotics, Women in STEM, Future Business Leaders of America, South Asian Student Association, National Honor Society, kind of just most things you can think of. And I also have interests that kind of tie into that. For example, I really love coding, and I actually really like computer science. And I also like doing robotics. It brings me a lot of fun, and I like doing it with my friends. I also have a big passion for painting and doing art, as you can see some of my old art up here. And so I kind of wanted to make a project that combined all of these interests into one. So when I was thinking about the inspiration for my project, I started brainstorming, and I came up with a few ideas that I wanted to answer. What did I want to learn about? I know that it's kind of cliche, but AI is a pretty big thing in the computer science market recently and just all over the world. So I knew I wanted to at least try and learn about it for my project now. I also knew that what I wanted out of this class was a project that would not only push me to expand my skill set, but also push me to at least try and learn something new, learn new information instead of just learning how to code. I wanted to learn more about how AI works and how it can be used. I also wanted to, again, combine my interests, like I mentioned before, and wanted to kind of have the creativity side of art come in with the creativity side of coding. So I came up with the idea for an interactive art installation, basically trying to bring together art and artificial intelligence together. So I had this rough description for my project when I was first starting. I wanted to create an AI system that detects different hand gestures, and those control the different elements of an artwork. So it'll use different machine learning methods to respond to motion that is near the artwork, with lights in the artwork and movement. It'll also integrate different electronic pieces like LEDs and motors, which I also wanted to learn more about because I believe it's important to learn about different aspects of engineering too. And also, this is my logo that I made for this project. I believe a paintbrush would be quite fitting for an art-based theme and having these little circuitry-themed elements coming out. So next, my 5 project objectives, which I kind of touched on before, is that I wanted to expand my skills and knowledge about computer science. I wanted to know more about it, and I wanted to prepare myself for my future career. I wanted to know more about AI so I can do better in college and get more internship opportunities and just have a better variety of the skill set. I also wanted to improve my documentation skills because before, whenever I have worked on a project, I'm kind of horrible at documentation. I almost never comment my code, which is a pretty bad habit before, and I also just would be really confusing. If I came back to a project, I didn't understand what I was talking about before. So with this project, I really wanted to improve my documentation skills, so if I want to build on it in the future, I definitely can. I also wanted to develop a better time management skills and stick to my schedule more. I struggle with this a lot, like other people. I'm a huge procrastinator. I kind of leave everything until the last minute, and so I wanted to combat that in this class. I also wanted to expand my creative process to include different deadlines because a lot of times when I'm working on art, it'll take half a month to just get a random backdrop in, and it honestly didn't need to be that long. I just kind of try to avoid it because I'll say, oh, it's a creative process, just let it be. But I need to start, I want to try and start putting deadlines on that so I can actually come up with finished products. So, I'll talk a little bit about my advisory committee now. I have, my expert advisor is Dr. Vasilios Athitsos. He's a professor at UT Arlington, and he teaches computer science there. He's also a pretty great fit for my project because he has done a lot of research on computer vision, hand gesture learning, and machine learning. And honestly, he was a really great help throughout all of this. Whenever I was stuck on something or I needed help and I was not understanding a specific part of the software or whatever I was using, he was always just an email away and always available to help. Next, my support advisors were my parents, who are also in IT, so I could have asked them for help, but I didn't because they said they didn't know what was going on either. And they also helped provide me with money for this project. I also have my Capstone peer group advisors, as we kind of all struggled through the same thing together, of having our projects break down at random times, having to struggle to write journals, and they all would really give me great feedback whenever I needed it. Whenever I was like, oh, what should I do to change this or make it a little bit more interesting, they were always there giving me all different types of viewpoints to see what I could do. I also have two of my best friends here being my advisors. They nicknamed themselves the Dumb Downers, as if I would try to explain something, they would tell me, just dumb it down a little bit more. So they're always there for me, and they're just kind of my emotional support. So my original timeline was a little and a lot unrealistic. I had told myself that I would research camera tracking for only a week, and then I would also research algorithms and machine learning for only a week. And I would continue and research microcontrollers for only a week, and then order parts the very next week. Now, I made this timeline at the beginning of my project when I didn't really know what I was supposed to do with it, so it's understandable why it's so hectic. But I also said I would complete the AI model in around 2 months, and then add machinery to the canvas in half a month, which is all just pretty unrealistic to say, and so that obviously didn't work out. So now, this is my new timeline that I did follow. So instead of researching camera tracking for only a week, or for researching algorithms for only a week, it took me at least 2 months to do so, because there was just so much more new information that I was not aware of. Because whenever I would start trying to code something else would come up and I would have to go back and look at that. And then this was just kind of like a repeated loop the entire time, where I was just going down a rabbit hole of looking at different algorithms and libraries and trying to figure out what they meant. I also had to research microcontrollers a little bit more, and I spent another 2 months on that. And then that pushed the date of me making the AI model by a good amount. So instead of my previous idea, I had been finishing the AI model basically at the end of March. So I had to start hardware basically at the beginning of April, which made it really hard to start doing true hardware and electrical components. So most of my energy in this project was poured into making the AI model. I also had kind of no time to test fully, and I had a lot of testing points along the way, so it works fine, but I really wish I had more time to do hardware. So the first bit of my research was just learning about how AI should see, because as I'm doing a computer vision project, I thought I should try to see through the eyes of a computer too. So one thing that I think is really important to learning how AI works is a neural network. It's really interesting because it's based off how the human brain works. As there's different little neurons firing off in our heads, it works the same way inside computers. You have these different input layers, and they connect to these hidden layers, and these are all nodes, or sometimes even called neurons. And they all connect to each other and create different patterns and recognize different patterns in the data that you give the input layer. Now, once all the hidden layers identify the different patterns they can see in the data, they'll give it to the output layer, which will give you a result of the data you gave it in the first place. So because all these hidden layers are connecting with each other and just trying to find more patterns in the data you give it, the more layers you have in your neural network just kind of means you'll have a deeper understanding of the data that you pass in. Another really interesting and useful fact about AI, and specifically hand gesture learning, is these hand landmarks, which were developed by MediaPipe. And so basically, it maps out 21 key points on the hand. So no matter what lighting you're in, like how small or how big your hand is, if you have 5 fingers in a palm, it will recognize your hand as a hand no matter what. And so from there, if you map these hand landmarks in an AI model onto your hand, it'll identify each point with different X, Y, and Z coordinates in space, making it really easy to classify these hand gestures. It helps track different finger bends and different just hand motions in general. The last little bit is just an RGB matrix value. And so basically how computers see images in computer vision are they'll take a whole image and they'll pick a specific pixel. And they'll break that pixel down even more into just its colors. And they'll see how much red is in that picture, how much green, and how much blue, like you see with that dog right here. And then the amount of red, green, and blue in each pixel becomes a value, and that's how computers basically quantize images. And so here you can see that the most often used way to create a gesture recognition model is to have first just an image passed in which it'll see and break down into different RGB points. And then you take those points and you pass it towards a hand detection neural network. That'll just see if in that image that you pass it, if there's even a hand at all. And then you pass that through a convolutional neural network, which is just a way of saying a neural network that will kind of be more advanced and like go on and on. And also then that maps the hand landmarks that I was talking about before onto the hand, and it'll have those 21 key points on it. Next, that gets fed to another neural network, which will identify the different landmarks, and it'll see how they are posed, what the XYZ coordinates are of each point, and then based off that, it'll give you a classification or what type of gesture you're making. For example, be it a peace sign or an OK sign or whatever it is. Now, some research and useful tools that I was recommended by my advisor and other people that were doing similar projects to me were OpenCV and MediaPipe. Basically, OpenCV is an open source computer vision library, and it's free for almost anyone to use. And you can use it specifically to process live video and extract image data, which is kind of perfect for what I wanted to do. I wanted users to be able to go up to the art and interact with it live in person, so I chose to use OpenCV. I also realized that it was optimized to work with Raspberry Pi, so that made it really easy for me when I was deciding what microcontrollers I would use, so I opted for that. I also incorporated MediaPipe mainly into my project because that's the company that kind of actually made the hand landmarks. So their system is the most easiest to take images in and map hand landmarks onto them. It also has a lot of pre-made sort of solutions that you can take, and then you can adapt them to your own data, which was really useful for my project too. So next, I had to research the different components I wanted to use in my electrical part of this project. And so I just brought a Raspberry Pi 5 kit, which had everything I needed inside of it. I also bought a few servo motors and an HQ Raspberry Pi camera module for actual images to be put into the AI model, even though, spoiler alert, this didn't work. And so I also ordered some LEDs and a wire kit just to put onto the artwork and have it interact with people. So here were all the things, and honestly, some of them turned out disappointing and were not working. So when I was training the AI model just locally on my computer, I did not get very far because of how hard it was. I would get different random errors, and honestly, they were all very minor errors. For example, I had to figure out OpenCV and MediaPipe's versions as they don't run on the latest Python, so I had to go dig around for that. Then I had to figure out why my Python wasn't working on my computer, which I never had before. It wouldn't let me download things. And then I just had so many errors, and it wouldn't let me open any zip files at all. And I had just so many more errors than I would have expected. And so they were all tiny things that I was able to fix in a day or so, but they just kept on building up and building up until eventually I was recommended to use Google Colab, which was kind of my savior. It's a free cloud-based writing program which will allow you to run Python code just in a web browser, and you don't have to go through all of that stuff to have it be on your computer. You don't need to do any setup, and it's free access to more faster computing because they have better GPUs already in their servers, which you can access for free. So then I started creating the AI model on Google Colab instead of locally on my computer. So I tried to find a data set online that I actually liked and would like to use in my project, but unfortunately I didn't find any, so I had to go and create my own. So this is a picture of just my hand in my room where I was taking pictures of my hand. I took 50 pictures of my hand for each gesture I chose, which was these 6. And then I wanted to vary the data even more, so I chose to do data augmentation. Basically, this is creating a data set that's even larger than it would be usually because of just artificially increasing the size and variety. For example, you can flip the image, rotate it, make it a different color, and just create different slightly altered versions of it, so your data pool will be larger and your AI will have larger data to learn from. It also helps the AI model learn better and generalize more gestures for my purpose. For when I was actually training the model in Colab, I had to import all the data that I had made and put it through pre-processing, which was basically just making all the images the same color, the same size, and everything the same so the model wouldn't get confused. I then had to go through actually training the model, and I used TensorFlow and Keras in Colab, which have kind of pre-built things to identify the 21 gesture points of the hand already. And from there, I monitored how much loss and accuracy they were having when I was feeding them live video image feed of my hand and seeing if it was able to recognize it or not. Then I went back and I tweaked the code a little bit, and that was kind of just the process of that. Next, I did a final evaluation when I was training the model, and I had ultimate test accuracy of 99%, which was pretty good for my model, and it worked fine in the end. So this was the actual testing part. And so I loaded the model back onto my computer just so I could test it, since Google Colab doesn't allow using web camera and I just needed a live video feed. And so at first it wasn't really working. This is a weird video actually of it working, where I can make different gestures and it'll recognize them almost instantly. I had to have a fix, as before when I would change my hand gestures, it would almost be too fast and it would anticipate it. So I would say just wait 10 frames and do the average of the gesture in those frames, which was a pretty easy fix. Next, I had to incorporate Raspberry Pi software into my setup. And so basically, I took the kit, and somehow the SD card had come corrupted, but I already had a backup luckily, and so that was bugging me for a bit. And I also, the Raspberry Pi camera, the HQ camera module wouldn't connect, and it would keep on giving me errors and saying it couldn't connect to the Raspberry Pi 5, even though it was connectable. They were compatible with each other. And so I went out and I purchased another USB web camera to work on my project. And so this is a picture of me working on the project and me importing the model into the Raspberry Pi. This is another monitor I have for the Raspberry Pi, and just showing that it'll work on there too. I created a script similar to what I had on the laptop before, and then ran it on the Pi, and it was successful. So when I was trying to incorporate actual hardware into the Raspberry Pi, I had a whole lot of issues because honestly, I'm more of a software person and I haven't really worked with electrical things that much before. And so I was going through a lot. I have different power issues, for example, because before when I was researching, I didn't see anywhere that I needed to use an external power supply for all the servos and the LEDs. So I went out and I got a new power supply, and then I went and I tried to connect it to the actual servos, and it didn't work. So I went and got the servo driver board, and that also didn't work. And I was also basically at my wit's end at this point, because this was during the ending phase of this project, and I didn't have much time left to do all of that hardware. And I was also struggling with different wiring issues, because I had to strip the power supply and cut all these wires, which are things I haven't done before in the last days of this project after finishing the AI model. And ultimately, the board just did not work. So I decided to have one compromise and say, I need at least just one working servo so I can manipulate at least a little bit of the art that I wanted to create. So then I had this. This is what was happening with my servers before. I had them connected all the right way, and I watched like 20 tutorials and just had other people check too, and they were all like, yeah, that seems right, but it wasn't. So just my luck, I guess. So next, at the end of the day, I got at least one servo to work, which you can see in this video where it's a little blurry, but if I make the correct hand gesture, then the servo will start moving more, and if I like have the wrong hand gesture, which is like a thumbs up, and I don't have the okay, then it won't move. And then, so basically, if I had more time, I would expand more on the hardware aspect of my project and be able to try at least to create a better art piece. I also would try and learn more about Raspberry Pi and their electrical component because I honestly did not have the time to go and like experiment with those as much as I wanted to and create the art piece that I wanted to at the end of the day. Because this was fine for now, but I definitely in the future want to expand on this too. So this is my long bibliography, but thank you for listening, and do you guys all have any questions? Yes?
Now that you have this sort of knowledge set, are there other projects that you'd like to apply this sort of technology to?
Other projects, I think I would definitely like to apply, like, being able to create an AI model to some sort of like facial recognition software is what I was looking at next. But we'll see how much harder that is next after this.
What happens if you only have 4 fingers?
If you only have 4 fingers, technically there won't be 21 landmarks to be identified on the hand. But I will say it does a pretty good job of identifying what a hand is. So unless you have only like 2 fingers, I think you should be good. Yeah.
What was your goal, or what would you do if you could add more servos or motors to your art?
Ultimately, what I wanted, like at the end of the day, was to have like a painting with like a little gate in it that would open up. But since I like don't have the power like of like 3 or 4 servers to actually like open a canvas up, then I wasn't able to do that. But if I had LEDs and servos, I would make a bigger piece for sure. Jesse?
What would happen if you made a hand gesture which wasn't a part of the data set? Would I try to identify it as something which is in the data set, or just not identify?
Sorry, what did you say?
Like if you make a hand gesture that's not a part of the data set, like what would happen?
It would just say that it's not like detecting one of our specific gestures. George?
When we were looking at your model accuracy, you had different metrics like precision and recall and F1 score. What are those really?
Right, like with the 99 percent thing I was saying, or
The slide where you had all your accuracies and stuff, what is exactly is precision, recall, and F1 score?
is it this slide?
Yes.
Oh, precision and recall and F1. Oh. So all of these, because the data was, I would feed more gestures into it and just kind of see how it reacted to different hands it hadn't seen yet. So its precision is seeing like how many times it can actually understand like new gestures that are like, new hands that are being given to it. And then recall is how much like it can remember. And did you ask something else?
Yeah, also F1 score.
And then the F1 score, I think this was something along the lines of like a combination of these 3. I don't exactly remember. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So ultimately you're like feeding different AI models into each other. Are you able to test it by just testing one model at a time?
Oh, with the different like neural networks?
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely can. But the thing with that is that it'll just kind of make the they're only part of the huge, like the bigger picture of the AI model. So basically, if I only go through like the hand detection neural network, you can like identify problems there, but it'll just see where the hand is. It won't give you like an actual endpoint of what the hand is doing. Yeah.
So if you do, or Why did you decide to use a neural network to identify gestures rather than potentially using like distances between hand keys? Was there any specific reason?
A neural network to identify gestures. From what I understand, like most of like what like the neural networks are identifying these like the distance between the landmark points. So technically it's still doing that. It just is like identifying more patterns within like if this distance is like X value, then that means it's like an okay sign.
Second, I'm sorry, do you kind of like expanding on this? This is a really big project. How is it now when you was in college?
I definitely want to expand on it more. Like I feel like I wasn't able to do enough with the hardware because I spent a lot of my time working on the AI model and the software part. So I do want to expand on this and do bigger things with the hardware especially.
How much prior knowledge do you have for making this project? Or was it like you just learned basically everything, so you changed your models a couple times, and you changed out your research plans and stuff?
Yeah, that was like mostly the issue with my project was like I kind of went into it knowing nothing about AI learning, and so it was a lot of just trial and error, like, oh, let's try this thing. Never mind, it's not working. Oh, let's try this thing. Never mind, it's not working. So that's why there was so much like research period and like areas into my project.
Okay, good job, thank you.